then I got the call to go down to the Puzzle Palace. I went to the Pentagon and to the office of the Chief of Chaplains in the Army.
That's the nickname for the Pentagon?
Yeah.
Puzzle Palace?
Puzzle Palace, right. Exactly. And I was the Chief of Personal Actions, which means I handled all kinds of adverse stuff. God forbid if a chaplain did I'm not talking about some Jewish chaplains, for the entire chaplaincy. Mm-hmm. My job was to basically protect the chaplaincy. I also managed promotions and assignments and things of that nature, efficiency, officer efficiency reports and so forth. So it was a wide variety of things, and I would answer when someone had a congressional, they wrote their congressman complaining about the way they were being treated. I'd have to go up to Capitol Hill and speak with the congressman and so forth. So one of the chaplains is waving goodbye. So that was a great experience. And then I guess I was a good boy in that job. So by this time I had been promoted to lieutenant colonel at the beginning of my tour in the Pentagon. And there was a little bit more credibility now that I was a lieutenant colonel. When you go into the Pentagon as a major, you're like a private.
Yeah.
As a lieutenant colonel, you may be like a sergeant. So I guess I was given a division in Korea, and that's like the ticket punch for becoming ultimately, if you're successful as a division chaplain, in all probability you're going to be selected for full colonel. And so I went to Korea, and I had I was the chief of chaplains for almost 30 chaplains in that division. It was a very big division in those days. We had about 17,000 soldiers there. And we were from at Camp Casey. We covered everything up to the DMZ, the demilitarized zone, and so on. And we had about 13 different bases situated throughout our area of operations, and so on. It was a tremendous experience because I enjoyed getting back with the troops, the soldiers, and so forth. And I enjoyed it immensely.
Well, let me ask, what was that experience like when you first got that posting at the Pentagon and realized that this is now your office?
Well, it was a little bit. It was awesome in the beginning, Mm-hmm. No, I had not been in the Pentagon before. You heard all kinds of stories about the Pentagon. After a year or so, you get pretty blasé. You become a member of the Pentagon Officers Athletic Club.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of walking.
A lot, yeah. I used to run every day. My running buddy was Chaplain Don Shea, who ultimately became a Monsignor and the Chief of Chaplains. And we were very close. We ran all the way from the Pentagon to the Capitol and back every day. And that's a lot of distance, because that was basically very important, because the job is very stressful. And I don't think I could have gotten through the day unless I got out there and ran. And that you lower your blood pressure and so on. So anyway, we were very close, and Shay and I, and ultimately I went after the tour in Korea. I came back, and I wanted to be back in the Washington area for chinuch for my kids so they could go to yeshiva. And the Army accommodated me and assigned me as the Deputy Chief of Chaplains at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. And I was on the promotion list at this point in time to become a full colonel. And so what happened was time caught up with me, and they said, Dresin, you are no longer, you're in already now about 22 years, 21 years, and you haven't had a tour in Europe yet. So I said, okay, what can you do? So I was assigned to Germany, and I had been in Germany before when I was working in the Pentagon. I had gone over to brief on a change in the U.S. Code Title 10, which affected personnel and so on. There's a major change in personnel law. And I was the point of contact in that for the chaplaincy. I was involved with working with the Judge Advocate General's office and the G1, the personnel office, in developing those provisions that applied to chaplains. And also, by the way, I was involved in the very famous Katkoff-Weider case, where we were sued by two Harvard law students who had been instigated by their law professors to sue the chaplaincy on the grounds of it not being constitutional in violation of the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And I was fortunate to have as a colleague there Rabbi Israel Dresin. There's a film of him with the Rebbe. You can find that.
Yeah.
And Rabbi Dresin was the lead counsel for the chaplaincy, worked with the Judge Advocate General's office in defending us. And I was involved also in doing a lot of research in answering a lot of interrogatories, a lot of the questions that are raised by the defense and so forth. And Baruch Hashem, we won the case in the U.S. Court of Appeals. In fact, we knew it, but we probably had won the case because the judge from the bench said, if it wasn't for he was a Korean War veteran. He said, if it wasn't for my chaplain, I'd be dead today. So we knew we had it, but we were hoping that we would take it to the U.S. Supreme Court. But the two lawyers who sued us at the behest of their professors, who happened to be Jewish, by the way,
wow.
Found themselves in great law firms, and they weren't interested in pursuing the case after they graduated Harvard Law. So we were happy about this, and it put an end to any challenges, at least at that time and heretofore, regarding the chaplaincy's constitutionality.
You talk about promotions, and I know every office building you want the top floor, the corner office. So there are 5 corners in the Pentagon, but what would be the finest?
The finest thing is to have an office with a window. Unless you're at least a full colonel or a general officer, you are not going to have a window. You're going to be out there in the bay with the rest of the hoi polloi. Years later, my office was hit by a 9/11 by one of the planes that hit the building. Thank God I'd been out of the Pentagon for a few years already at that point, but our office was under renovation, so there was nobody in it.
Thank God. That's where the chapel is now.
No, the chapel. There is a chapel in the Pentagon right now.
I was there.
Okay, yeah. Aleph and Chabad, the shul, in concert with Aleph, donated a Sefer Torah to the chapel at the Pentagon. But unfortunately, next door to where we were, the chaplaincy was in the building, was the Army Reserve, and their commander and a number of the officers were killed by that crash. Very, very tragic.
Very tragic.
I can tell you a funny story about that. When I was there working from the Pentagon, there was a heliport right outside. Someone had left an attaché case. In those days, it was attaché cases, and it sat out there, observed, unobserved, I'm not sure what, for hours. And finally, security said, this looks strange. So they had an AOD, explosive ordnance device, EOD, check it, and it was I believe there was a mortar shell that was not active, but with a note on it said, see how easily I could have blown you guys away or something to that effect. Oh my God,
seriously?
Yeah. So the next day I'm going off, I have to stop at my office, so I'm going out to the field, I have to catch a plane, and there's the DOD police, these are civilians who work for the Department of Defense, government employees are checking packages as you're going into the building. So I have a suitcase in one hand and my attaché case in the other, so I see he's got a table there and he's checking things, so I take my suitcase and put it down on the table. So he looks at me and says, sir, we're not checking suitcases, only attaché cases. Well, what can I say? You're giving orders, check attaché cases.
You're doing attaché cases.
You don't want to check the suitcases.
Nothing says procedure of the military like that.
That's right, exactly. Following orders, literally.
Yeah, literally. So